Let's be honest, real estate investing sounds exciting, but it can also be downright terrifying when you're just starting out. You're not alone if your stomach flips at the thought of putting your hard-earned money into a property, dealing with tenants, or navigating a market you barely understand. But here's the truth. Fear is not your enemy. In fact, it's a sign that you're stepping into something meaningful. Fear shows up when we're on the edge of growth. It's your brain's way of saying, hey, this matters. Let's not mess it up. The key isn't to eliminate fear. It's to understand it, manage it, and move forward anyway. In this video, we'll explore the 5 most common fears that plague new real estate investors. We'll unpack where they come from, how they show up, and most importantly, how to overcome them with confidence and clarity. Let's dive in. Fear 1: what if I lose money? Why this fear exists? This is the big one. The fear of losing money is probably the most universal fear among new investors, and for good reason. Real estate isn't cheap. You're not buying a cup of coffee. You're making a 5- or 6-figure decision. That's enough to make anyone sweat. Here's why this fear is so common. High stakes. Real estate involves large sums of money, often borrowed. Lack of experience. Most people have never made such a big financial decision before. Horror stories. It's easy to find tales of people who lost everything in a bad deal. Uncertainty. Markets fluctuate, tenants can be unpredictable, and repairs can be costly. The psychology behind it. Let's talk brain science for a second. Humans are wired to avoid loss. In psychology, this is called loss aversion. We feel the pain of losing something more intensely than the joy of gaining something of equal value. So even if a deal has a high potential upside, the fear of losing money can paralyze us. There's also the fear of financial insecurity. Many new investors are using their savings, retirement funds, or taking out loans. The idea of losing that money can feel like losing your safety net. How this fear shows up. You spend months analyzing deals but never make an offer. You constantly second-guess your numbers. You feel overwhelmed by what-if scenarios. You avoid talking about your investing goals with others. How to overcome it? Let's break this down into practical steps. 1. Start small. You don't have to buy a 20-unit apartment complex right out of the gate. Start with something manageable. A single-family rental. A duplex or triplex. House hacking, renting out part of your primary residence. Smaller deals reduce your exposure and give you room to learn. 2. Run the numbers conservatively. Use tools like cash flow calculators, deal analyzers, rent comps. Always assume worst-case scenarios, higher vacancies, lower rents, unexpected repairs. If the deal still works, you're in good shape. 3. Build a safety net. Set aside reserves for repairs and maintenance, vacancies, property taxes, and insurance. A good rule of thumb is to have 3-6 months of expenses saved up. 4. Learn from others. Join local real estate meetups, online forums, or Facebook groups. Ask questions. Share your fears. You'll quickly realize you're not alone and that others have overcome the same challenges. 5. Reframe the risk. Instead of asking, what if I lose money? Ask, what if I learn something valuable? What if this is the first step toward financial freedom? What if I never try and regret it later? Real-life example, Tun's first deal. Tund, a civil engineer in Lagos, had saved up $5 million over 5 years. He wanted to invest in real estate but was terrified of losing it all. Instead of jumping into a big project, he bought a small plot of land on the outskirts of town and built a 1-room rental unit. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. He rented it out, reinvested the income, and slowly added more units. Today, Tund owns 5 properties and mentors other new investors. His advice: start small, stay consistent, and don't let fear make your decisions. Fear 2: I don't know enough. Why this fear exists? Let's face it, real estate has its own language. Cap rates, ARV, NOI, 1031 exchanges, BRRRR strategy. It can feel like you're trying to learn a foreign dialect while simultaneously making life-changing decisions. This fear is rooted in the idea that you need to be an expert before you start. And while knowledge is important, waiting until you know everything is a trap. Real estate is one of those fields where you learn best by doing. Here's why this fear is so common. Information overload. There's no shortage of books, blogs, podcasts, and YouTube channels. Conflicting advice. One expert says buy and hold, another says flip, and a third says wholesale. Fear of making mistakes. You don't want to mess up and lose money or credibility. Lack of formal education. Most people didn't study real estate in school. The psychology behind it. This fear is often driven by imposter syndrome, the feeling that you're a fraud and don't belong in the room. Even if you've done your homework, you might still feel like you're not qualified to invest. There's also perfectionism at play. You want to get everything right, so you delay action until you feel 100% confident. But that day never comes. How this fear shows up. You binge watch real estate content, but never take action. You constantly switch strategies, trying to find the perfect one. You feel intimidated in conversations with experienced investors. You avoid networking events because you don't want to sound dumb. How to overcome it? Let's break this down into practical steps. 1. Pick a learning lane. Instead of trying to learn everything, choose a niche. Single-family rentals, multifamily properties, short-term rentals, wholesaling, fix and flip. Focus on one strategy and go deep. You can always expand later. 2. Limit your sources. Pick 2-3 trusted educators and stick with them. Too many voices create confusion. Look for people who have real-world experience. Share both wins and mistakes. Teach in a style that resonates with you. 3. Take action while learning. You don't need to know everything to make your first move. Start with driving for dollars, analyzing deals, attending open houses, talking to agents and lenders. Every action builds confidence. 4. Find a mentor or accountability partner. Someone who's a few steps ahead can guide you, answer questions, and help you avoid common pitfalls. You can find mentors through local real estate meetups, online communities, social media, paid coaching if it's a good fit. 5. Use systems and checklists. Checklists reduce decision fatigue and help you stay organized. Create templates for deal analysis, property walkthroughs, tenant screening, rehab budgeting. Real-life example, Ada's journey. Ada was a school teacher in Abuja who wanted to invest in real estate but felt overwhelmed. She joined a WhatsApp group of local investors and started asking questions. She found a mentor who let her shadow a few deals. Within a year, Ada bought her first rental property. She didn't know everything, but she knew enough to start. Today, she owns 3 units and teaches others how to get started. Her advice: you don't need to be an expert. You just need to be willing to learn and take action. Fear 3. What if I can't handle tenants or repairs? Why this fear exists? This fear is rooted in the messy, unpredictable side of real estate, people and problems. You've probably heard horror stories, tenants who don't pay, destroy property, or call at 2 a.m. because the toilet is leaking. Or maybe you've seen the cost of a roof replacement and thought, nope, not for me. Here's why this fear is so common. Lack of experience. Most new investors have never managed property or dealt with tenants. Negative stories. Bad tenant tales spread faster than good ones. Uncertainty. Repairs can be expensive and unpredictable. Fear of conflict. Confronting tenants or contractors can be uncomfortable. The psychology behind it. This fear taps into 2 major psychological triggers. Fear of conflict. Many people avoid confrontation, especially when money or property is involved. Fear of the unknown. Not knowing how to fix things or who to call creates anxiety. It's also tied to a sense of vulnerability. Your property is an extension of your finances and your reputation. The idea of someone damaging it or refusing to pay rent feels personal. How this fear shows up. You delay buying because you're worried about tenant issues. You obsess over worst-case repair scenarios. You avoid older properties due to potential maintenance. You consider selling after one bad tenant experience. How to overcome it? Let's break this down into practical steps. 1. Hire a property manager. If you're not ready to deal with tenants directly, outsource it. Property managers. Screen tenants. Handle maintenance requests. Collect rent. Manage evictions if necessary. Yes, they charge a fee, usually 8–12% of rent, but they save you time and stress. 2. Screen tenants thoroughly. Prevention is better than cure. Use a solid screening process. Credit checks, employment verification, rental history, references. Set clear expectations in your lease and enforce them consistently. 3. Build a reliable team. You don't need to be a handyman, you need a network. Plumber, electrician, HVAC technician, general contractor, handyman. Ask for referrals from other investors or property managers. Keep their numbers saved and build relationships. 4. Use technology. Apps and platforms can simplify management. Rent collection, Cozy Rent Ready Pay Rent. Maintenance tracking, Buildium Appfolio. Communication, email templates, automated reminders. Technology reduces friction and keeps things organized. 5. Learn basic maintenance. You don't need to be a pro, but understanding the basics helps. How to shut off water. How to reset a breaker. How to unclog a drain. YouTube is your friend, so are local workshops and DIY classes. Real-life example, Chindu's wake-up call. Chindu bought a duplex in Enugu and decided to self-manage. His first tenant stopped paying after 2 months and refused to leave. Chindu was devastated. He didn't know how to file for eviction, and the stress affected his health. After that experience, he hired a property manager and focused on acquiring more units. Today, he owns 12 doors and hasn't spoken to a tenant in over a year. His advice: know your strengths. If management isn't one of them, delegate it. Fear 4. What if the market crashes? Why this fear exists? Real estate markets go up and down. If you lived through the 2008 crash, or even just read about it, you know how devastating a downturn can be. Property values plummeted, foreclosures skyrocketed, and investors lost millions. Here's why this fear is so common. Historical trauma. Past crashes leave lasting impressions. Media hype. Headlines often predict doom for clicks. Economic uncertainty. Inflation, interest rates, and global events affect markets. Lack of control. You can't control the economy or housing trends. The psychology behind it. This fear is driven by catastrophizing, imagining worst-case scenarios and assuming they'll happen. It's also tied to a sense of helplessness. Unlike repairs or tenant issues, you can't fix the market. There's also a fear of being judged. If you buy at the peak and prices drop, people might say, "I told you so." How this fear shows up. You wait for the perfect time to buy. You obsess over market predictions. You avoid investing in certain cities or property types. You panic during downturns and consider selling at a loss. How to overcome it? Let's break this down into practical steps. 1. Invest for cash flow, not speculation. Focus on properties that generate income regardless of market conditions. If your rental brings in consistent cash flow, short-term price fluctuations matter less. 2. Diversify your portfolio. Spread your risk. Different cities or neighborhoods. Different property types, single-family, multifamily, commercial. Different strategies, buy and hold, short-term rentals, BRRRR. Diversification cushions you against localized downturns. 3. Hold long-term. Real estate tends to appreciate over time. Short-term dips are normal. If you hold for 10–20 years, you're likely to see gains. 4. Stay informed but not obsessed. Follow local market trends. Job growth, population changes, infrastructure projects, school ratings. These indicators matter more than national headlines. 5. Have an exit strategy. Plan for different scenarios. Refinance if rates drop. Sell if appreciation is strong. Convert to short-term rental if demand shifts. Flexibility is key. Real-life example, Ngozi's patience pays off. Ngozi bought a rental property in Port Harcourt during a downturn. Friends told her she was crazy, but she focused on cash flow and held the property. 5 years later, the market rebounded. Her property doubled in value, and she had collected steady rent the entire time. Her advice: ignore the noise, focus on fundamentals. Fear 5. What if I fail and everyone sees? Why this fear exists? This fear is deeply personal. It's not just about money, it's about identity, reputation, and pride. You've told your friends you're investing. You've posted about it online. What if it doesn't work out? Here's why this fear is so common. Social pressure. You feel like people are watching your moves. Fear of embarrassment. You don't want to look foolish. Comparison. You measure your success against others. Perfectionism. You want to get it right the first time. The psychology behind it. This fear is tied to ego protection. We avoid situations that threaten our self-image. It's also linked to shame, the belief that failure makes us unworthy or unlovable. Social media amplifies this fear. You see highlight reels of other investors and feel like you're falling behind. How this fear shows up. You delay action to avoid potential failure. You hide mistakes or setbacks. You quit after one bad experience. You avoid sharing your journey publicly. How to overcome it? Let's break this down into practical steps. 1. Redefine failure. Failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of it. Every investor makes mistakes. The key is to learn and grow. Ask yourself, what did I learn? How can I improve? What would I do differently next time? 2. Celebrate small wins. Progress builds momentum. Celebrate. Analyzing your first deal. Making your first offer. Attending your first meetup. Getting your first tenant. These milestones matter. 3. Surround yourself with support. Find a tribe that gets it. Real estate groups. Online communities. Accountability partners. Mentors. Support reduces shame and builds resilience. 4. Document your journey. Share your story, wins and losses. It builds trust and helps others learn. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be honest. 5. Practice self-compassion. Talk to yourself like you would a friend. Be kind, be patient, be proud of your courage. Real-life example, Kemi's transparent triumph. Kemi started blogging about her real estate journey in Ibadan. She shared everything, good deals, bad deals, lessons learned. Her honesty attracted a loyal following. Today, she runs a coaching business and owns multiple properties. Her transparency turned fear into fuel. Her advice, your story matters, share it, own it, grow from it. Conclusion, fear is a sign you're growing. If you're feeling scared, congratulations, you're on the edge of something big. Every successful investor once stood where you are now. They felt the same fears, asked the same questions, and took the same leap. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be brave enough to act despite the fear. Real estate investing isn't just about properties. It's about personal growth. It's about learning to trust yourself, take calculated risks, and build a future you believe in. So take that first step. Analyze a deal, make an offer, talk to a lender, walk through a property, join a meetup, ask a question, make a mistake. Learn, grow. Because here's the truth. The only thing scarier than investing in real estate is never investing at all. You've got this, and the community of investors, new and seasoned, is here to cheer you on every step of the way. Now go build something that lasts.